Why are we here? Why do we put in all this effort, working hard, trying to impress others, chasing success, only to die one day? These are the kinds of questions that creep into our minds when we're lying awake at night or stuck in a quiet moment of reflection. For people who aren't religious, those questions can hit even harder. Albert Camus captured this feeling with unsettling precision. He once described the rhythm of modern life like this: rising, streetcar, 4 hours in the office or the factory, meal, streetcar, 4 hours of work, meal, sleep, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday according to the same rhythm. He points out that we go through this routine almost automatically until one day something shifts. We stop and ask why, and that's when it all begins. That strange mixture of tiredness and wonder that leads us to question everything. A time when faith had the answers. If we look back in time, most people were religious, and that gave them comfort. Whether life was joyful or full of suffering, they believed there was a reason behind it all. A divine purpose laid out by God. Their struggles, their successes, their pain, all of it was part of a bigger picture, and that gave them hope. Faith wasn't just about rituals or beliefs. It was a lens through which they saw the world. It offered answers to the biggest and scariest question of all: why are we here? But things started to shift. As science began to rise, with theories like Darwin's evolution and breakthroughs in astronomy and biology, religion no longer held the same authority it once did. For many, it started to feel less like a divine truth and more like a moral system created by humans to make life bearable. Nietzsche's Warning: What Happens After God? In the 19th century, philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche introduced a now famous character known as the madman in the gay science. Through him, Nietzsche wrote the chilling line, "God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him." He didn't mean this literally. He wasn't saying a divine being literally died. What he meant was that culturally, society was moving away from belief in God, especially in Europe. Science, rationalism, and new philosophies were replacing religion, and Christianity was losing its grip on people's lives. Now, here's the twist. Nietzsche was an atheist himself, but he wasn't celebrating this shift. He saw it as dangerous. Without God, without that central guiding purpose, he feared that people would spiral into nihilism. In a world with no higher meaning, no divine plan, what's left? Just emptiness. And that's what nihilism is. The void that's left behind when we strip life of purpose. Nihilism is a state of spiritual stagnation in which nothing truly matters. Why get out of bed? Why care about right or wrong? Why live at all? That mindset can be deeply destabilizing. It leads to anxiety, depression, and apathy, feelings that are all too familiar in today's world. Camus's answer to the void. Absurdism, but Camus didn't stop at nihilism. He saw the same emptiness and chaos that Nietzsche warned about, but instead of collapsing into despair, he offered a bold alternative: absurdism. Absurdism is rooted in a basic truth, that life is inherently absurd. Camus explains the situation using the ancient Greek myth of Sisyphus. You've probably heard it. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to push a massive boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down each time he reached the top. He had to do this for eternity. Sounds like pure punishment, right? But Camus saw something deeper in that story. He believed Sisyphus represented us. Our daily routines, our endless search for meaning, and our struggles and failures, they mirror Sisyphus's eternal task. We're constantly trying to make sense of life, to find purpose in a universe that never gives us a clear answer. That's the absurd, the conflict between our need for meaning and the universe's silence. So, what do we do when we recognize the absurd? Camus says we should rebel, not by refusing to live, but by choosing to live fully, even in the face of meaninglessness. He famously said that we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Even though his task is pointless, he still chooses to keep pushing the boulder. He accepts the struggle, and in doing so, he finds freedom. Man stands face to face with the irrational. He feels within him his longing for happiness and for reason. The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world. Camus didn't believe in God, but he also didn't consider himself an atheist in the traditional sense. He didn't say for certain that there was no God, just that if a higher power did exist, we probably couldn't ever truly know or reach it. So to him, It didn't make sense to waste time searching for divine answers that may never come. Instead, we should live deeply and intentionally within the limits of what we do know. Camus's 3 ways to respond to the absurd Camus identified 3 main ways people respond when they come face to face with the absurd. Suicide, the most extreme reaction. Some, overwhelmed by the lack of meaning, choose to escape it entirely. Camus was clear. This is not a solution. It's a rejection of life before fully understanding it. Philosophical suicide. This happens when people turn to illusions or unfounded beliefs just to feel better. Maybe it's religion, maybe it's blind optimism. Camus criticized this too. He felt it was dishonest, a way to avoid dealing with the absurd directly. Revolt, Camus' preferred path. It means staring into the void and choosing to live anyway. Not because life has inherent meaning, but because we give it meaning through our actions, our passions, our love, and our courage. In the end, Camus offers a strange kind of hope. Not the comforting hope of religion, but a rebellious one. A hope that comes from accepting life as it is, absurd and uncertain, and deciding to live it with intensity anyway. It's not an easy philosophy. There's no promise of heaven, no neat answers. But maybe there's something deeply human about choosing to live without them. About waking up each day, pushing your own boulder, and finding your own reasons along the way. After all, we may never get a final answer to why we're here. But maybe the real meaning comes not from the answer, but from the fact that we keep asking. Here's the thing about being human. We're wired to search for meaning. It's built into us. We want answers. We want to understand why we're here, what our purpose is, and what it all means. But Camus had a different take. He recognized this drive for meaning, and he also recognized how often the world doesn't offer any. So, how do we deal with that mismatch? One tempting way is to just pick a belief system. Any belief system. It could be Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, or even a secular ideology like humanism. Find one that feels right and commit to it. No more questions, no more doubts, just total buy-in. Camus called this philosophical suicide. Why? Because that move, that surrender, when it means giving up the search for truth. It means deliberately choosing comfort over reality. You stop wrestling with life's deep, uncomfortable questions just to avoid the unsettling silence that sometimes follows them. And Camus? He was firmly against that. He saw this kind of escapism as a betrayal of our own intelligence. Life may feel unbearably hard at times, chaotic, painful, even meaningless, but it's also rare and finite. Suicide, whether literal or philosophical, doesn't solve anything. It only ends the conversation. It cuts us off from the very journey that could have revealed something new, even if that something is just our own personal peace with not knowing. Camus' 3rd way, absurdism. Instead of retreating into belief or giving up altogether, Camus proposed a 3rd way, absurdism. And it's not as cold or cynical as it might sound. Absurdism is about facing the truth head-on. Life might have no grand purpose. The universe probably isn't listening, but we're here anyway, breathing, thinking, feeling, and that is enough to keep going. Camus didn't ask us to pretend that life has meaning. He asked us to live as if it doesn't, and to find our freedom in that very fact. Absurdism tells us to stop trying to make everything make sense, and instead live with a few powerful phrases in the back of our minds. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Why worry about it? Why not? So what? These aren't expressions of apathy. They're tools for liberation. When you stop obsessing over the meaning of it all, when you drop the pressure to have everything figured out, life becomes a lot lighter. Take the daily grind, for example. The 9-to-5 routine that eats up your weeks, blurring days into each other. Camus saw that rhythm in the myth of Sisyphus, the man doomed to push a boulder uphill forever, only to watch it roll back down. Sounds depressing, right? But Camus flipped the script. He said we should imagine Sisyphus happy, not because the task isn't hard, but because he's awake. He's choosing to keep going. And in that choice, there's power. So, why not? Absurdism at its core is a call to action. Try that side project you keep talking about. Apply for that job that feels out of reach. Take a trip somewhere weird. Start writing the book, launch the podcast, take the art class. Stop caring if it looks silly. Stop waiting for permission. Who cares if it's not perfect? Who cares if it doesn't lead to some big payoff? What's the worst that could happen? Lost your job? It sucks, but another door will open. Launched a business and it failed? So what? At least you tried. Living with less money than you hoped? you're still living. Absurdism teaches us to stop chasing external validation and to focus instead on the act of doing. That's where life happens, not in the results, but in the risk. Living with a "so what" mindset. Here's the truth. There might not be a higher answer out there. And yeah, that can be scary. But instead of despairing over that silence, Camus invites us to embrace it, defy it, and in that defiance we find something radical: freedom. So what if your plans fell apart? So what if you haven't figured it all out yet? So what if you're not where you thought you'd be by now? If life doesn't come preloaded with purpose, then maybe our job is to create our own. That turns every setback into a stepping stone. Every failure becomes part of the raw material we use to build a life worth living. And when you stop fearing failure, something incredible happens. You get braver. You stop hesitating. You take more chances. You stop living to impress and start living for yourself. Absurdism doesn't mean giving up on life. It means finally showing up for it. Fully, fiercely, unapologetically. Not because it's easy or because you've figured it all out, but because this is your one shot, and that makes it worth everything. So let's just accept it. Life is absurd. There's no master plan waiting to be uncovered. There's no cosmic scoreboard keeping track, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's where the beauty actually begins, in realizing that we don't need to find meaning in order to start living. If you've got freedom, your health, and life itself, what more could you ask for? Even Sisyphus, cursed with his never-ending task of rolling a boulder uphill only to watch it fall back down, found a strange kind of happiness in the struggle. Now think about us. We're far luckier. We're not stuck in one path. We have options. We can explore, evolve, and reinvent ourselves as many times as we want. And instead of falling into nihilism, which offers nothing but emptiness, absurdism gives us something more. It hands us the tools to build our own meaning, without pretending there's some grand one waiting for us. Camus said it best. You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life. 3 Core Teachings of Absurdism by Albert Camus. Embrace freedom. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Camus believed that real freedom begins the moment we stop blindly following the rules that society hands us. You're not here to live someone else's life or to carry out traditions just because they've always been there. Nietzsche shared a similar idea. Break free from the scripts handed to you. Don't accept norms just because they've been passed down. Think for yourself. Question everything. Absurdism encourages you to carve out your own path, even if that means being misunderstood. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if the answer is just because I'm supposed to, maybe it's time to choose something different. Life isn't about checking off someone else's boxes. It's about creating your own. Find meaning in chaos. The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Let's face it, the world is messy. It's overwhelming, unpredictable, and often discouraging. Anxiety is on the rise. Depression feels like a norm. Suicide rates are climbing. It's no surprise that nihilism, that creeping belief that nothing matters, is spreading fast. But absurdism offers another way forward. It says, yes, the world is chaotic, and no, there may not be a grand reason behind it all. But you can still choose to care. You can still choose joy. You can still create your own meaning. You don't need approval. You don't need to explain yourself. If something makes you feel alive, do it. Whether it's building a business, falling in love, learning an instrument, or just finding peace in a quiet morning, that's your meaning. And forget about fitting into other people's timelines or expectations. Meaning can be found in pursuing your passions, building real, honest relationships, laughing at the small things, soaking in the present moment. Absurdism says, it doesn't matter if life doesn't make sense. What matters is what you do with it. Embrace suffering. What matters is not the experience of suffering, but how we respond to it. Camus wasn't a man who wrote about hardship from a distance. He lived it. Born in poverty in Algeria, he lost his father in World War I. He grew up with little, raised by his mother under tough conditions. Then came tuberculosis, which haunted him for most of his life and forced him to confront his mortality early on. These struggles didn't make him bitter. They made him wise. They made him compassionate. They shaped his obsession with injustice, human rights, and the quiet dignity of enduring without losing hope. In the myth of Sisyphus, Camus took all of that pain, all the unanswered questions, and turned it into a personal philosophy. Yes, life is a struggle, and yes, it can feel meaningless, but that doesn't mean you give up. It means you show up anyway. You lean into it. His real-life experiences during World War II and the Algerian War only deepened this conviction. He didn't fall back into rigid ideologies or lose himself in abstract theory. He stayed grounded, human, and always on the side of compassion. Camus believed that suffering, while painful, can also be the soil from which strength grows. It sharpens your sense of what matters. It teaches you to see beauty in places others might overlook. Camus' idea of the absurd hero is someone who stares into the abyss and smiles anyway. His characters, like Meursault in The Stranger or Dr. Rieux in The Plague, don't search for meaning in old myths or ready-made answers. They face life head-on. They refuse to flinch. They don't escape into religion or ideology. They create meaning through action, through choice, and through connection. So what does absurdism teach us, really? That the universe doesn't owe us anything, and yet we can still make something beautiful out of it. That freedom isn't something we're handed. It's something we claim. That suffering is part of the deal, but so is joy. And that the only real failure is giving up on the possibility of your own meaning. So go out there. Start something. Fail at something. Try again. Laugh more. Let go of the pressure to figure it all out. And above all, live as if your existence is a quiet rebellion against the silence of the universe. Because, in the words of Camus, in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. Absurdism, a double-edged sword. Absurdism can feel like a breath of fresh air. It offers freedom, a way to live lighter, unburdened by the constant need for answers or approval. It can lift the weight of life's big, unanswerable questions off your shoulders. But let's be honest, Camus's idea of not caring, of shrugging off meaning entirely, only works up to a point. Eventually, that "who cares" attitude can lose its appeal, because deep down, most of us do care. Most of us feel that quiet pull towards something greater, a deeper purpose, a reason to keep going. And at the root of pure absurdism lies a belief in nothingness. That can be liberating, yes, but it can also become hollow. That's the tricky part with philosophies like absurdism. While they offer a kind of mental relief, a break from the pressure to find cosmic meaning, they can sometimes push us away from faith, away from moral grounding, and into a place that feels good temporarily, but doesn't fully satisfy the soul. Take the idea of "who cares," a staple of absurdist thinking. It's a phrase that's echoed throughout online culture, especially in spaces that celebrate living without consequences. Think of some content creators, influencers, or OnlyFans stars who live by that ethos of radical detachment. While some might see this as freedom, others see it as something that flattens the depth of human experience. Because here's the truth. Humans are wired to believe in something. We're not built to float through life without anchors. Whether it's spirituality, love, legacy, or community, we crave meaning. We wonder, who made us? How did life come from nothing? Have we always existed? Why does the universe stay silent? These questions don't just go away. They whisper to us in quiet moments. They grow louder when life gets hard. And if the answer is nothing, if we tell ourselves that humans don't matter and that life is just random chaos, it's easy to spiral into nihilism. And from there, it's not far to depression, emotional numbness, or even thoughts of giving up entirely. That's why absurdism, while useful, can't be the whole answer. We need something more, something to lean on when the "so what" attitude stops working. That doesn't mean everyone has to follow a religion, but it does mean we should at least stay open to the deeper questions. We should explore them, wrestle with them, seek meaning, even if we never find a perfect answer, because ultimately, the human journey is about that search. It's about discovering what gives our lives richness, whether it's faith, philosophy, art, family, or love. It's about pursuing something that feels larger than ourselves. Absurdism can be part of that process. It can shake us free from illusions, strip away the lies we've been told, and give us permission to build meaning on our own terms. But it shouldn't be where we stop. Instead of seeing absurdism as a final conclusion, we can treat it as a starting point, a spark that ignites curiosity and self-reflection. And maybe, through that process, we'll find something deeper, not handed down, not imposed, but discovered for ourselves. In that way, we don't reject Camus outright. We simply don't follow him to the end of the road. We take what helps us move forward. We leave behind what weighs us down. Just like Bruce Lee once said about philosophies, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. That's how we stay grounded. That's how we stay human. Not by pretending life has no meaning, but by deciding to create it, seek it, and believe in something that makes it all worth living.